From the Far East to Western Europe, from Siberia to Hindustan, many centuries ago the nomadic civilization stretched for tens of thousands of kilometers. Today the descendants of ancient nomadic tribes have become independent nations, yet they have preserved their nomadic survival culture. In what form nomadic traditions are still alive at present? Watch the Ethnosport to learn all about that and much more. In today's episode, nomadic martial arts, wrestling as a life skill, Kazakh wrestling as sport. Hello, my name is Arman Umarkodjiev. I was born and grew up in a big city, therefore I consider myself an urban person, with all the pros and cons resulting from this. But I also feel the spirit of my distant ancestors, the nomads, living in me. So this spirit drives me out of the concrete jungle of the city to break free into the nature, and leads to me thrilling new adventures, and perhaps even brings me back to myself. Nomadism is the oldest form of human civilization, characteristic of all steppe nations. Nomads were cattlemen who moved along with their herds in search of better pastures. But this isn't the only thing that distinguished them from the settled cultures. The long-awaited spring has come, and I cannot stay at home. It's time to start the motorbike season. Riding my motorcycle, I always feel like a nomad. It's hard to explain. There is only you, your motorcycle, and the road. And then, there's no you, no motorcycle, no roads. There is only wind and freedom. As far as I know, ancient authors, beginning with Herodotus, reported that numerous tribes of Sakas like Tigrahauda, Masagat, Halmavaga, Arimaspa and others had lived in the steppes and foothills of modern Kazakhstan. They were very powerful and influential tribes, and as is known from history, they also had great military potential. Some sources mention that the ancient Sakas had one curious custom. A man could marry a woman only if he won her in a fight. It's interesting, right? This is Viktor Zaybat, the most famous archaeologist in the whole country, or even more so in the whole world. He discovered the Botai culture. If you have never heard about him, then here is what you need to know. For the first time in the history of mankind, horses were domesticated on the territory of modern Kazakhstan, more precisely in northern Kazakhstan. And the author of this discovery is Viktor Zaybat. Viktor, I have a natural question for you. Where did the nomads originate from? Nomads is a system of steppe economic relations. Nomads is a system of cultural values. Nomads is a system of political relations. I am particularly interested in one side of their lifestyle. How did they prepare for military affairs? Did they have martial arts, war strategies, military training?
Дело в том, что жизнь номадов связана с конем. Конь – это целый мир.
The nomadic culture is closely connected with horses. A horse meant a world to the nomads. Interaction with his animal shaped a lifestyle. Taming a horse required courage and strength. Riding a horse required flexibility and dexterity. When you have these, even if you fall off a horse, you can avoid serious injuries. So there is a combination of skills and physical abilities required in the nomadic lifestyle. In this regard, Kazakh wrestling helped build strength and agility among men. Men were trained to be leaders. Wrestling was a traditional form of training soldiers, many of whom were called baters, war heroes. nomadic lifestyle required great discipline and knowledge of military affairs. Excellent horse riders trained for long hikes. They had to develop athleticism from early childhood. Arm wrestling was another traditional sport that helped train men.
These
days we can see how the people are looking back at their roots in order to rebuild their national identity. It's natural because they descended from one of the most ancient civilizations and have a rich history. Some of the traditional sports are reviving too. Now I know that wrestling is one of the oldest kinds of martial arts, but I want to know more, so I'm going to the sports school to try Kazakh wrestling. So I'm here in a Kazakh wrestling sports club. I have a goal, to get a permission to attend a training session with professional athletes. But I don't have my training gear with me. I've been to a few stores and did not find the necessary uniform anywhere. I hope I can find it here. My name is Arman. I'm interested in taking classes in Kazakh wrestling. I would like to attend a class for professional athletes. Can you help me? We train our professionals in the Palace of School Children. As for the uniform, we can find you something. Oh, great! I'm on Joly. Wow, my favorite color. Yes, red is the color of winners. I am pleased to present this uniform to you and hopefully it will be useful to you later in life. Thank you, I couldn't have dreamed of this. Different cultures have developed different types of martial arts in accordance with the skill sets which were historically necessary in certain lifestyle. One of the oldest martial art forms is the Greco-Roman wrestling. I, for instance, know a lot about famous Japanese forms of martial arts like Aikido, Jiu-Jitsu and Sumo. But today, I want to learn more about my national martial art, the Kazakh wrestling. Can I start? I read somewhere that this kind of martial art is also called the belt wrestling. I will explain. Before starting to battle, the wrestlers grip each other's belts. These belts were specially made durable sashes tied around a chapan. Then a signal was given to begin the fight. But an attack was not counted if one of the wrestlers lost the grip of the opponent's belt. In Kazakh wrestling, there were no weight categories back in the day, as there were no restrictions to the duration of the fight and the gender of the wrestlers. Women were also involved in wrestling competitions. We just finished the warm-up. Guys started engaging in sparring. I need to breathe a little. To tell you the truth, I have not rolled on the floor this much for about 40 years. The main philosophy in the Kazakh wrestling is to cause no harm to the opponent. It's a peaceful martial art, filled with kindness. No one should lose their dignity during the fight, not the one winning, nor the one losing the fight. First, you need to learn how to greet your opponent. Two rivals greet and hug each other and only then start the fight.
Здороваются два соперника, обнимаются, потом начинают бороться.
I'll explain the rules. The action takes place only from a standing position. You cannot get on your knees. You cannot touch the floor with your hands either.
Задевать тоже нельзя. Мы с Ержаном сейчас стоим.
Ержan and I will now explain the classical stand. This is when the opponents grab each other's sashes. All action must take place only in standing positions.
Все действия происходят только в стойке. Нельзя.
You cannot grip the opponent below the belt. You cannot grab his feet. The main goal in the Kazakh wrestling is to put the opponent down so that both of his shoulder blades touch the floor. What are some of the feet techniques? You can do the following with your legs. You can do the forward step, like this.
То есть надо на себя толкать, да? То есть чего вы
How do you usually start your fight? I usually start with a grip.
захват? Самый удобный захват. Твой захват.
During the fight, a wrestler burns 10 times the energy compared to when he's resting. Besides physical exhaustion, emotional tension adds up. So after the fight, the athletes need to recover. Nowadays, the athletes can consult dietitians and physicians for better recovery. What did our nomadic ancestors do? I'm afraid their diet was not very diverse. It consisted of meat and dairy products and lots of fresh air.
У спортсмена питание должно быть разнообразное.
Sportsmen should have a diverse, high-calorie and nutritious diet. They need to consume a lot of protein, fats and carbohydrates. There has to be a right balance of those. And of course they need vitamins and minerals.
И, конечно же, витамины и микроэлементы. Для единоборств в основном основным
Athletes need lots of protein, which is responsible for muscle conditioning, physical performance and endurance.
усиливает физическую работоспособность и выносливость.
And how long does the fight last? The fight lasts 5 minutes. One round? Yes, one round lasts 5 minutes. Is early victory possible? There is an early victory. There is also additional time. If the opponents finish with a draw, then they engage in bel dessus.
Берем обе.
Here are the rules for bel dessus. We grip each other on the belt and wrestle until the first touch. Whoever touches the mat first loses. Oh, so whoever drops first loses. That's clear. You can try taking your opponent outside the mat. If he steps outside the mat, he loses. Oh wow, now I have some idea of what Kazakh wrestling is. There is a well-known saying to put somebody down on both shoulders. For me, it has acquired a completely different meaning. Earlier, I somehow understood it allegorically. To me, it meant to achieve a complete victory over an opponent. But here I see that Kazakh wrestling means to literally put an opponent on his shoulder blades. Let's take a look at the uniform now. It's unexpectedly comfortable. These are the pants. This is the kimono. The knot on the belt is tied in a special way. The belt was tied with a knot. It never goes loose during the fight. The uniform is special. I cannot stand still wearing it. I feel like I was charged with energy and ready to do something. Ержан, let's go wrestle. My task is to remain on my feet. And now my coach is teaching me to do so. I remembered about our legendary wrestler Kajimukan. In his half-a-century career, he did not lose a single fight. But withstanding against a professional athlete is enormously hard.
Необычайно трудно.
Perhaps one of the most famed Kazakhs in the world is Kajimukan Munaitpasov. He was 195 centimeters tall and weighed almost 840 kilograms. Although he was famous as the world's most invincible Greco-Roman wrestler, he was also a champion in Kazakh wrestling. He received acclaim in the United States, France, Japan and across the Soviet Union.
Наверное, он является авторитетом.
He still remains a legendary and exemplary wrestler for our athletes. Why? Because he fought in 28 countries of the world and won 56 medals. Once a Japanese MMA wrestler who was trained jiu-jitsu fought against our Kazimukan Munaipasov. It was a fatal battle. After the fight, Kazimukan's opponent died. Kazimukan was not just a good fighter, he was a kind person. He loved his country and his people. During the Second World War, the legendary wrestler organized a circus and performed in it. He used all the proceeds from the performances to buy a fighter aircraft to be used in the war zones. Balawan Sholak, whose name is given to the Sports Palace in Almaty, was another famous wrestler, stuntman and performer. According to a well-known legend, at the age of 35, Balawan Sholak could lift a log with 20 adult men on his shoulders. Many of such heroes and athletes owe their career to Kazakh wrestling.
У нас в Республике Казахстан 16 регионов. В этих 16 регионах есть 16 городских федераций.
Kazakhstan is made of 16 regions, each of which has its own sports federation. On a city or regional level, the Republican Federation oversees the development of the Kazakh wrestling across the country. And above it, there is the World Federation, which is engaged in the development of our national sport worldwide. To popularize this sport, our federation members went to Singapore and Georgia to present the national sport. This sport is gaining momentum in Japan. Why Japan, you might ask? That is because their national sport of judo is similar to our sport. We have a lot of great athletes in Kazakhstan, world champions like Kyrgyzbayev brothers. Every athlete dreams of becoming an Olympic champion, but Kazakh wrestling is not yet included in the Olympics. So our athletes slowly transition to judo and are showing great results. They are starting to compete in international tournaments and world championships in judo. They are already rated ratings 7th, 8th and 9th in the world rankings. They can be called the strongest fighters of the planet, and Kazakh wrestling is their foundation.
Борцов планеты их можно назвать, наши казахисты, которые именно основа, база, фундамент заложен в казах-куресе.
I heard that every national martial art has its own special stroke. In Kazakh wrestling, the special technique is a throw over a thigh called jambas. A perfect jambas has helped many athletes achieve outstanding results and win champion titles. And now I know what jambas is. As I understood from what I have learned today, almost every culture has its own form of martial art. There are some commonalities between them. The differences can be found in certain rules and techniques. Moreover, many techniques from the national types of martial arts have evolved into modern battle forms Sambo. Well, it's time for me to wrap up my training, because I also want to see how children train in the children's sports school. Here in the heart of the Olympic Village in Almaty, there is a youth sports center in Kazakh wrestling. It is here where the young wrestlers begin their journey into big sport. All classes here are free for children. Boys, do you want to be the champions? Yes. Do you have a dream? I have a dream, and this is to win Eurasia Baris, Alem Baris and Kazakhstan Baris titles. My coach says that if I work hard, I can achieve anything. Boys, I watched how you train. You are all very talented. Do you want to become champions? Yes. It's time to sum up my little journey and share my experience with young Kazakh wrestlers. What can I say? You saw and heard everything. I was very impressed with this martial art and with these young, strong and enthusiastic sportsmen. They are truly the pride of our country. And I also thought how great it is that the military drill of our ancestors gradually turned into sports. So I wholeheartedly wish all the great sporting success to these athletes. I wish you, my viewers, to do sports and to try Kazakh wrestling. As for me personally, I'm a little tired, but at the same time immensely happy.
У меня появилась отличная идея для следующей передачи.
Now I will never be the same again. I have a great idea for the next show. The motorbike riding season has already started and I have great plans in regard to motorcycling.